President Barack Obama delivered his final State of the Union address Tuesday and held little back when it came to talking about the future of the United States. President Obama admitted that the U.S. is in a great period of change and that technological advances in a shifting economy has left many Americans fearful and anxious as the social structures that have championed the U.S. for decades have started to erode. Now, Jose, President Obama normally puts his speech into neat little buckets so you can find out which section, what he's talking about in each section. But he didn't do that in this speech. Instead, he had four major themes that sort of ran throughout the entirety of the speech. The first being this idea of American tradition. The second being incorporating technology into the fabric of our society. The third being that greed is really the biggest predator to our economy. And then the fourth being that hate speech betrays who we are as a country. Now, did you get a chance to check out the State of the Union?
Yeah, I did, and I think it was very well delivered. I love how he was not so discreet in rebuting the rhetoric that some GOP candidates are putting out there. He was very clear, debunking the idea that America is not great anymore. He said America is still the strongest country in the world. One of the highlights for me was one of the bits that kind of show a little bit of concrete policy, meaning the implementation of more technology into the education system. The fact that he floated out the idea of integrating computer coding into the life of a student in the United States, I think is critical because most of the jobs in the next 20 years are going to rely on computer coding at some level. So to hear him put this, concrete proposal about kids being ready for the jobs right after high school by adding this as part of the regular curriculum, it was very important to me.
Yeah, and what's interesting about this is that he spoke about how companies now use technology where they don't have to be based in the United States.
Correct.
And so a lot of these traditional industries that we're seeing are shifting to headquarters overseas or downsizing. There are more non-traditional workplaces popping up where people can work from home or work remotely just because of all of the luxuries that technology affords us. So I think it's really smart of him to start having this conversation, this dialogue about how the technologies that we're developing here in America can help progress our economy forward, progress us forward when it comes to climate change, human rights. I mean, there are so many different ways that we can really integrate technology into what we're doing. And also, to your point about what he was saying about America being the greatest country ever.
Yep.
Now, President Barack Obama didn't call out anyone specifically, but it was very obvious who he was talking to when he was talking about the anti-Muslim rhetoric. And he even had a really great quote that I thought was going directly to not Trump, but to the people who were voting for Trump or the other conservatives who may agree with this sort of or this xenophobic rhetoric that a lot of the GOP candidates are spewing.
Yes.
So Obama said that when politicians insult Muslims, when a mosque is vandalized or a kid bullied, that does not make us safer. That's not telling it like it is. It's just wrong. It diminishes us in the eyes of the world. It makes it harder to achieve our goals, and it betrays who we are as a country. And I think this was a great move on his part because normally in these speeches, he's addressing Congress on the State of the Union. But what he was doing here is talking about the future, how we need to be thinking about politics as we move into a new election cycle, what we should really expect from our candidates as these people are coming up winning these party nominations, and how we should be looking forward, what message this sends to the rest of the world.
Exactly, and supporting that, he also said that ISIS is not the threat that these candidates are trying to paint as. They are not he said explicitly that ISIS is not a threat to the existence of the United States. Anyhow, the Republicans, the next day, they were all out saying, well, you do not have an ISIS strategy, and that's all it matters. All the things that you said, we don't really care because we only care about ISIS. For me, one thing was absent, and for many Latinos, it's an issue that has been ignored by the president and many in the administration, which is the situation in Puerto Rico. The debt that Puerto Rico is facing was not even acknowledged in this State of the Union address, and it's sad because this is a situation that eventually is going to come back and bite the economy, the larger economy of the United States, and we are talking about the life and the well-being of millions in Puerto Rico.
Right, because for Puerto Rico, it's a U.S. territory, which means that it has a lot of the luxuries that U.S. states have, but none of the safeguards in place for debt, for the government to bail them out when they get in these situations where their economy is tanking.
So that's a hot point that he didn't address, but also the fact that he went ahead and kind of set off the last year, like the victory lap, with the appointment of Vice President Joe Biden as the czar against cancer in the last year of the presidency. I think these are important symbolic efforts because really there's not much new initiatives that he can take right now. Most likely he will be wrapping up those. There's plenty of pending things. One of them, the immigration executive action that he took that is still being battled in the courts. He will probably like to finish that and be winning on that point against the Republicans. But also eventually he's going to have to start campaigning for the next presidential in support of whoever. Most likely we know that he will be supporting Hillary Clinton. But this seems to be, you know, the beginning of the end for the Barack Obama presidency, and he will work hard to make sure that his legacy is solidified before he exits.
Definitely. So the president said that he wasn't going to harp on the issues last night because he still had a lot of progress that he was trying to make before he left office. But he did paint a picture of a very hopeful America, and hopefully that'll translate with voters next election season.